Residents of several coastal villages in Togo are concerned about the growing problem of coastal erosion. They say local authorities are doing little to help despite promises made during the Paris Climate Change Conference just last year.
The gradual warming of the sea, the waters are getting warmer and decrease the water pressure, which leads to rising waters. In such conditions, coastal erosion will accelerate. The shoreline will get smaller and smaller, which we have seen is at an average of 10 to 12 meters between the years 2010 and 2015.
Authorities say they have tried to address the problem by setting up a project called the National Program for Investment in the Environment and Natural Resources aimed at preventing further erosion along Togo's coastline. An estimated $5 million has been allocated to build wave breakers to prevent ocean waters from damaging property and the beaches. Last December, while attending the United Nations Climate Conference in Paris, Togo's President Faure Gnassingbe appealed to world leaders and other stakeholders to assist his country in fighting against erosion.
There are two national roads that go along the coast in Togo, which have now been washed away by the sea. Now we want to build a third road. But if we don't fight against erosion, what's the point of building a third road which may disappear in 10 years' time if nothing is done about this problem? So we need to change our priorities.
Togolese want the government to do more, while conservationists are urging everybody to take an active role in protecting the environment. Betty Okari, KTN News.
Now, earlier this week, we told you of an Uber taxi that was burnt down in a Nairobi suburb. The Uber driver survived the attack by suspected arsonists. But over in Egypt, Uber drivers there are also facing the same challenge. Taxi drivers in Cairo are accusing drivers from the privately owned taxi company Uber of stealing their business, with many taxi drivers now calling for a ban of Uber cabs. Zinzi Kibiku has been keeping an eye on the regional taxi wars.
And the taxi bullying continues. This week in Nairobi, Kenya, outside Moringa Court, another Uber driver fell victim to the road victimization. Since Uber began its operations in Kenya, it has received the same sort of welcome: harassment. What started as verbal intimidation has now turned into setting Uber taxis on fire, and authorities have had enough.
People, four of them came out with the petrol. They poured the petrol onto that taxi and set it on fire. The driver was injured. He sustained burns, and injuries out of the fire. Please, tuheshimu biashara ya mtu mwingine.
A few weeks ago, when Kenya Taxi Association body met and threatened to block highways, they also made their intentions clear. Nevertheless, the latest attack speaks differently.
We are not fighting the Uber drivers. In fact, some of them used to be our colleagues. We have no problem with the drivers. Our problem is the big fish.
In a press statement, Alon Litz, Uber General for Sub-Saharan Africa, has called on authorities to condemn this violence in the strongest possible terms. This shameful incident has no place in the industry, which should be focused on helping people get around the city safely and affordably. North of the continent, Uber is also in trouble. Taxi driver Hussein Mohammed is among this crowd of angry taxi drivers in Egypt. Taxi drivers in the Egyptian capital have been protesting against the operation of the San Francisco-based taxi service Uber. In Cairo, drivers accuse the company of unfair competition and of stealing their business.
We only get the rides for 5 Egyptian pounds and 10 Egyptian pounds. No long rides. The rides to October and the 5th settlement and all these long rides we do not get anymore. Only Uber and Karim get those. In Cairo, there are only 20 million citizens, so the market has space for Uber, competition and taxis. Our goal is to move the economy forward so that everyone would benefit from the presence of Uber and taxis. To be clear, our demands are: number 1, to shut down the offices completely with all its subsidiaries. This is our first decision. Someone from the General Traffic Authority has to release an official statement from the Ministry of Interior saying that these companies are not legal.
The presence of Uber technology acknowledges has caused protests from London to New Delhi. So far here in Kenya, investigations have been launched to the Uber that was set ablaze. Our sole Nairobi County Commander Joseph Kome has also set aside a special task force to make sure such matters are handled. But until then, Uber partners in Kenya have no choice but to stay vigilant until a common ground has been found. Zinzi Kibiku, KTN News.
Angola's capital, Luanda, is struggling to manage its garbage in the face of an economic downturn. The government cut the waste management budget, forcing unpaid contractors to stop cleaning up. Critics say the problem is mismanagement and misuse of funds in a country that offers some of the starkest examples of inequality in Africa. Here's our reporter Jeff Kirui with more details.
When a plunge in oil prices prompted Angola's government to slash public spending last year, many had no idea it would leave the capital Luanda overwhelmed by garbage. The budget of Africa's second largest oil exporter has been cut again this year and is 40% lower than 2 years ago. Public service, including rubbish collection and water sanitation, are overlooked by contractors who aren't being paid or can't import equipment due to foreign exchange shortages, contributing to a surge in deadly diseases.
This is very bad for our health. The bad smell, it is bad. We have this level of garbage that is so high here. And then we have also been hit by rains and we have the overflowing waste accumulated here.
The situation has worsened since the rainy season began in December, as heavy storms washed discarded waste and contaminated water into supplies used for washing and drinking. Health officials say an outbreak of yellow fever has killed 37 people since December, while there has been an increase in reported cases of malaria, cholera and chronic diarrhea. The yellow fever outbreak began in Luanda's vast Viana suburb of 1.6 million people, but has since spread. The government recently launched a vaccination drive, but more is needed to reach people in other parts of the country.
We have got to guarantee the effectiveness of the vaccination for the population of Viana.
The unsanitary conditions many poor Angolans have to endure is not the reality in other areas of Luanda, which is one of the world's most expensive cities for foreigners and home to generations of billionaire oil magnates and politicians. President Jose Eduardo dos Santos recently inaugurated the new Ambiente Square in central Luanda, an upmarket expanse of landscaped gardens developed by Portuguese construction firm and funded by Angola state oil company Sonangol. When the budget for waste removal was cut in August last year, the central government placed the management of sanitation under local municipal offices, but funding was limited and many outstanding contracts had not been paid.
All right, so our last story tonight is an interesting one. I want to take you to Egypt now. A 14-year-old boy, Ahmed Ayman, who lives in a small village in the north of Egypt's Nile Delta, is training his donkey to jump obstacles like horses do in polo.
In the small village of Belkas in Egypt's Nile Delta, a 14-year-old boy and his pet donkey are causing quite a stir. Ahmed Ayman, who lives on agricultural land belonging to his family, has been training his donkey Rihanna to jump hurdles. Every day after school, Ahmed trains with Rihanna for about 30 minutes, where he slowly raises the obstacle higher to test her limits. At first, he was just using Rihanna to run errands for his late grandfather, when one day she jumped on her own accord over a small stretch of water.
When it was still a foal, I didn't know how to ride her at the time. When it was still a foal, I didn't know how to ride her at the time. But my uncle taught me how to. And then I started using her to run errands. And then one day it jumped. And after that, I started training her. Foals are known to be light on their feet. And my uncle encouraged me to try jumping over barriers with her. And so we did, and she jumped.
His family, who often sit and watch Ahmed and Rihanna jump, say the young rider has a real talent.
Ahmed is extremely smart, but here our resources are very limited. For example, we do not have any scouts around who can enter him into this field. We want officials that are responsible for horse jumping sport to get him involved, because if he enters this field, he'll succeed.
The land on which Ahmed lives has a modest-sized barn and other animals like goats and cows, but Rihanna is the one getting the most attention. Another of Ahmed's uncle, Sheriff Abdelwood, said Ahmed's skills in riding shows he would be able to ride a horse.
Horses are much smarter than donkeys. For example, if we get him a horse, not even an Arabian horse, one that is sturdy, he will be able to train with it.
Ahmed and his family say they dream one day he will eventually work professionally with horses. Ashley Mazuri, KTN News.
And the donkey is called Rihanna. Interesting. All right, we want to leave you with the bottom line tonight. And tonight it is one that is filled with optimism. News that Burundi's President Pierre Nkurunziza has agreed to talks to bring to an end the political crisis in his country is good. Prisoners will be freed and arrest warrants will be lifted. What's also encouraging is that there will be no media restrictions during their sessions. Now, this can only be hailed as a good move. What is disappointing, however, is that it came following Ban Ki-moon's intervention. We ask why here on Bottomline this could not have been brokered either by the East African community or even the African Union. But we shall let that rest tonight and just look forward to the start of a process towards ending the suffering of the people of Burundi. And that tonight is the bottom line. Thanks very much for your feedback and for watching. As always, Bottomline EA remains the hashtag. Please do get in touch with us at KTN News. You can tweet me at Yvonne Okwara or my Facebook page, Yvonne Okwara as well. Thanks for watching. Good night.